Well, hello my YouTube family, Jeff here from the Learn Portrait Drawing channel, and in this video we are going to pick up where we left off and finish this portrait. Now the theme of this video, I'm thinking, is going to be something along the lines of how do you draw blonde hair when you're only using black and white? And this was a perfect example of that. In this video we're going to finish this, and you'll see when we start out the hair is not blonde, but as we end up with, it obviously looks like a person with blonde hair. So this video will give you some tips and tricks on how I accomplish that, and we are going to go through the entire thing. So if you haven't seen part one, I'm going to put a link to it somewhere up over here, I think. And then also in the description below, we'll put a link to that. And anyway, before we get on to watching this, I just want to say thank you again for commenting, subscribing, and if you haven't yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Do me a favor, it lets YouTube know that you like this kind of thing, helps promote the channel, and motivates me to keep doing these videos. So, enough talking, enough rambling, let's get on and finish this portrait right here. Okay, and here we are back, moving faster than ever. So, as I mentioned in the intro, if you haven't seen part one, we are continuing where we left off in part one. So, what we're going to do in this video, we're finishing up this portrait, and what you could see me doing here is we are starting with blending. So I'm just taking a blending stump and we're rubbing in all of the charcoal that we sort of scribbled down in the first video of this portrait. And this is actually a really fun stage because you really start to see the picture go from looking like a drawing to actually looking like a photograph. It's really neat to just watch it all come together. Now, because this picture plays so heavy on the contrast of the light and the dark, you can see I am not shading anything over the light areas. Now normally I would. Normally I'd probably shade over the entire face because nothing is really pure white. But in this particular photograph I wanted to really accent the contrast differences, so that's why I left it like this, just complete white background for the reflection on the face. So what I did is I didn't really blend anything else except for the face. I wanted to try and work on the face as much as I can. So here we're up here, you could see there's going to be a little triangle above the eyebrow or next to the eyebrow, right in this area. I'm still trying to see shapes, but for the most part the shapes are already done. We drew shapes in part one. This is now all about refining the drawing. This is all about seeing what needs to be lightened, what needs to be darkened, and try to establish those values. So you could see me right here using my eraser to get this eyelid, because we know the eyelid is is lighter than the fold of the eye above it. So I'm trying to just make that shape pop, that eyelid shape pop. And see what it did? It's already bringing the eye forward. The eye is like slowly coming to life out of this shadowed darkness. And the more you draw, the more you start seeing that, how lights and shadows really shape the form of the person you're trying to draw. If you want to push something back into the background, you'll make it darker, and it pushes it back. If you want to bring something forward, you lighten it with your eraser, because now it's closer to the light source. And this is how we're giving that impression that the light is coming, or the eye is coming forward out of the darkness, because it's closer to the light. Now here's this, I just erased underneath the eye. That's for the eyelid, the reflection of the bottom eyelid. And then I'm just kind of blending it back up close to the eye, just like this, making it darker back here because this is in shadow and it's also further back. And then put some eyelashes up in here. Really doesn't take much to make an eye look nice. Now see, I'm using my eraser to lighten the shadow, but I'm not going to erase it completely. I'm just lightening it a little bit, and then I'll blend it back to kind of smooth it a little bit. Because you'll notice in the picture right underneath that eye, it's not all shadow. There's a little bit of reflective light. And so I'll use my eraser to kind of lighten these parts up. And then I'll use my blending stick or my finger to kind of smooth it back over. Now most of this video, unlike the first part, this is mostly all sped up. This is about 4 times my speed. So this video is only going to be a little over 25 minutes long, but in real life this probably took about 2 hours. So you're seeing 2 hours worth of footage in 25 minutes. So I just saved you some time. But because a lot of this is all the same, it just would be really boring to sit for 2 hours and watch me do all these changes. I just figure I'd sit here with you now and kind of narrate. So I'm just going through and slowly blending anything that looks a little rough. And also right here, you could see we're blending over that white area. That's a nice way of adding a little bit of color, a little bit of tone without using a pencil. Just kind of blend over it. Now look at that left eye, that eye that's to the left of the picture, our left. Notice I didn't even draw an eye. I just drew sort of a dark shape in there. But your brain, when you look at the picture as a whole, you don't have to draw an eye. Your brain will tell you that's an eye just based on the lights and the darks that you put inside. So that's a lot of drawing. A lot of drawing is this optical illusion of you just using lights and shadows, and your brain fills in the rest. So right here, we're going to start working on the hair, and I'm looking at these dark areas. And I'm just trying to mark dark areas in just as like a landmark. So I'm not drawing hair, okay? I'm just drawing, like right here, there's a shadow for the window. So I see this shadow, this dark shape. So I'm just kind of marking in these shapes. And then we'll kind of add hair on top of that. You know, one of the hard things that's, or at least for me, that I'm learning about drawing blonde hair is that you really are going to have to make everything else around it, the background, you got to make the background darker than the hair. So right now, you can't tell she has blonde hair in my drawing. In fact, my drawing might make it look like she has darker hair. But that's because the background around her hair is lighter. So I want you to remember that right now. Look at the background. Look at the lower left-hand corner by her hand. In my picture, it's lighter than what I have her hair right now. Her hair right now is like a dark gray. So there's no way for your brain to know that that's a blonde-haired girl. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to find out how we're going to make this look like a blonde-haired girl, even though we're drawing in black and white without color. So notice right here the chin is not as dark as below the chin. That's because the shadow below the chin is darker. So you have to look at that. You got to look at your shadows and ask yourself what's darker and what's lighter. Is this a lighter shadow or a darker shadow? And compare that with everything else. And remember what I said earlier. The lighter something is, the more in front it is, the closer it is to the light. So that's why her chin shadow is not as dark as the shadow below her chin. Because I'm letting you see that her chin is more closer to the light. So you can see the drawing slowly coming together by adding all these shadows and these shapes here. It's starting to look a little more realistic. The nose actually looks like it's coming forward, it's coming off the page because it's lighter on the tip, because it's closer to the light. So now I'm using my little mono eraser to kind of add a little bit of indications of hair. So you can see this like little strands here. I'm trying to look at the picture and see where is it lighter. And I'm slowly adding these in here. Now notice, just doing this by itself does not make the hair automatically look like a blonde. But we're starting to get somewhere. This is slowly starting to indicate that it's light colored hair. And for every one of these little streaks, these little eraser marks, that's just telling the viewer that it's reflecting light. This piece of hair is reflecting light. So now I'm using my pencil to kind of, I use it on the side a little bit and kind of give it these streaks of hair. And I'm still rubbing out these shadows here, these darker areas. Because even in the hair, there's light areas and dark areas. There's shadows in the hair. You got to keep all those things in mind. It's not just a bunch of pencil lines. So all this is the background over here. And I'm going to start by just, this background is black. So we're going to add some charcoal here. Just like this. And darken it up a little bit. And I'm using my finger to blend it in. Now that's looking a little better, but notice it's still not that much darker than the hair. When you look at a picture like this, your brain might say, well, this is all black, and black is darker than blonde. So therefore, this is darker than the hair. But if you look at the picture, because we're only drawing in pencil, it looks the same. It looks very muddy. It looks very similar to the hair. So even though, this is black, this bottom left-hand corner of the picture is black, we're going to have to make it look really black in order to make the hair stand out even more. Now all these little shadows that I've drawn right in here, where the blinds are, those are kind of going to give the illusion that the hair is lighter. And it's also going to give the illusion that the hair is in front of it and that these are shadows being cast on the background. But the background right now is still too light. It's still too close to the hair. One of the things I mentioned in my last video is when you're doing shadows and shading, you always got to question yourself, give everything a number value. If 0 is absolute white and 10 is absolute dark, look at the picture and ask, what is the hair? Well, if 0 is absolute white, I don't know, that hair might be a 2, maybe a 2.5, because there is some color, there is some darkness to the hair. Some parts of the hair look like they're a 1, but what is the background? This black background that has light on it, what is this? Well, that might be a 3 or a 4. Because it's black. So you got to always ask yourself, what are we going to, what value are we going to give? So here I am using my pencil again, kind of on the side to create these streak marks. Notice how I'm holding the pencil. Just kind of on its side and going up and down, going in the direction of the hair. And it's slowly going to add a little more depth to the hair. because we're adding darker values. So this is going to create a little more shadow, a little more volume for the hair. And notice we haven't really done anything. We haven't changed the hair color yet. We were just adding streaks into the hair. So let's see if we can work on this background a little bit more. I want that hair to really kind of pop out. So I got to darken everything else around it. So these shadow areas we're making dark, and all down here, look how much darker we're going to make it. More darker than we had it. And look what's happening. The hair is going to jump forward. By darkening all these shadows and the background, look at this. Now all of a sudden her hair is starting to read like it's blonde. We made that way dark. You can almost not even see the shadows of the blinds. So see, I'm going to try and make those even darker. When you make something dark, you kind of have to adjust everything else around it. And so that's what we're doing here. Since we made everything more dark, I have to kind of reestablish these darker shadows. So this is the blinds here. And see, all around the hair there, it's all dark, and that's why now the hair seems to jump out. So if you're ever drawing somebody with blonde hair, or you want to, you know, make it stand out, remember to darken everything else around it. So just adding some touches to the hair again. Kind of redarkening this shadow a little bit, again, to make the hair around it stand out. You know, I want this hair on her forehead to stand out, so I'm just darkening this a little bit. And even down here, these shadows, I want these to be a little bit darker. Make that contrast pop. Make it stand out even more. Overall, this has been a pretty, I don't want to say simple, but it kinda is a simple drawing. It's kind of a simple drawing because it's just a lot of shapes and shading. So, which was perfect because this illustrated the lesson that I wanted to teach for this, which was using shapes to get a good, accurate likeness, and just using shadows to show contrast and show how to shade a picture by looking at shadows. So this drawing kind of fulfilled all of that. Over here, this is a little bit darker on this side of the face because it's turned away from the light. But I want to leave that lip, that bottom lip, pretty light right in here, because that's facing the light. I'm looking at this shape underneath the lip. And just like that, we're just slowly, just ever so slightly blending a little bit. I didn't want the lips pure white, but it's still light enough where it looks like it's reflecting some of that reflective light. Now these are soft edges around these shadows, so I was kind of leaving the edges soft on the face for the little window pane reflection. Notice they're not hard edges, they're soft. So all in here, and actually above the chin right in here I notice needs to be some shadow. I kind of missed all of that. So we're just going to slowly kind of draw in these shapes with our blending stump. Just add some shadow in here. It's got to be a little bit darker underneath the neck, but now it's looking a lot better than what we had it. Reestablishing the darkness under here. Make this a little bit darker. I want that nose to stand out, so let's darken around it. And then blend it back down. And notice right here on the cheek next to the nose, it's not all the way black. I left a little tiny line of lightness. That's just representing, oops, sorry about that. That's just representing the reflective light, and it also separates her cheek from the background. So that's always something to keep in mind. So at this stage, I'm kind of looking back and forth at the drawing. I'm seeing what needs to be changed, what needs to be tightened up, what edges need to be hard and what edges need to be soft. You know, this eyebrow's darker than the shadow, so I'm making sure the eyebrow's dark. Kind of adding little streaks into the hair. Here we are back with our eraser, adding these random highlighted pieces of hair. And look how nice that stands out. Because we've added some tone and some shading, we can erase that back, and it looks like the hair is now even blonder than we had it. Now our brains are telling us that's blonde hair. It's exactly what we wanted. So I'm looking at the shadows on the hand. The shadow on top of the fingers, dark or darker down here. I'm just kind of going to blend this in a little bit. Don't really care about this area. It's kind of the bottom of the picture, so we're just leaving it like that. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's you know, right here I said I want to make this a little darker. Make the face stand out a little bit more. So we make behind the face darker. Kind of trying to clean up the edge a little bit, still keep it soft. But look at that eye. That eye is so nice. It really looks like it's kind of peeking out through the shadow. I love how that turned out. And I do believe it looks like the person. I think we captured her likeness really well. Again, if you haven't seen part one, watch part one. You'll see how we got this far and how the picture, you know, came to be what we're seeing now. So at this stage, I'm just trying to do last minute touches. The hair's pretty much where we want it to be. I'm just jumping through and seeing which shadows do I want to be darker. And of course, touching up these little areas that get smudged. It's very easy to smudge with charcoal. If you never worked with charcoal before, you'll learn that. Some is easier to smudge than others. So see, this is sort of like me cleaning up the drawing. Darkening around the face, the shadows around and behind the face, which will make the face stand out even more. Just darkening these shadows. There we go. Now, if you like this kind of drawing, I'd really appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up and let me know. I do check in with my subscribers and read all my comments every day, and knowing that these videos are helpful to you really helps motivate me to keep doing these. I do have videos come out 3 times a week right now, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'll put out a new video. Usually we'll do at least 1 portrait a week. But hopefully as this channel grows, as you like the channel, as you share it, as you let others know about it, as it gets bigger, I'll be able to devote more time to it, maybe to have more portraits, more tutorials, things like that, that we all could have some fun with. We'll do some fun things. Draw some of you guys for the channel. It'll be fun. I like interacting with you guys. So see, I'm just kind of using my eraser, erasing all the white areas that weren't erased before, and I'm adding a little bit of shadow on the edge of the nose, kind of make it look a little more rounded, not so flat. But yeah, this drawing, we're just about wrapping this up here. We didn't have a whole lot to do on this video. Most of the hard work was done in part 1. So this was just all about shading and establishing the blonde hair and the face. But yeah, this is it right here. We're bringing this to a close. So we step back and look, sign our name to it. I always put the date just so I know. And that is it. That's our final picture. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. And also check out these other videos on the screen, some of my past work. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. Please leave me a comment and a thumbs up, and we will see you next time right here.